how about like safety wise, where you were staying and when you were working? How stressful was that at all?
We Yeah, we stayed, and during that week we stayed in a Mennonite camp that was a camp for girls in Haiti, and it was relatively safe. They said during the earthquake they had some initial issues because they knew that there was food at that site, and so they were really pretty careful about that. But I'll tell you, our translators were so conscious all the time of making sure that we were safe, and knowing that we really didn't speak the language well, and had no idea where we were most of the time. I couldn't have located us on a map because I had no idea geographically where we were. And so they did a really good job of watching out for us and making sure that we didn't get into any situations that might be dangerous. In Port-au-Prince, the clinic in Port-au-Prince is in probably the second most dangerous neighborhood in Haiti.
Wow.
That was a little interesting from time to time. You didn't really go anywhere outside of that clinic without having an escort, and that was men and women both. Many of the people that had been there up until the earthquake really hadn't seen anybody that looked like us or talked like us, or it was a pretty different experience. I had a little girl in a school that I was seeing both her and her mom, who was about 6 months pregnant, and you could tell she'd never seen anybody with blonde hair. She was pretty fascinated by just my hair, but she was pretty afraid of me as well. And I listened to her mom's chest, and I listened to her heart, and I put the stethoscope in the little girl's ear so she could hear. And her face just lit up when she heard her mom's heartbeat, and she broke into song. And this little girl just sang me this most beautiful song in Creole, and then she was okay.
Wow.
And she let me work with her. I think that was the most astonishing thing to me was people are living in tents. They have no electricity. They stay up all night and sing so that they're not robbed during the night, and so they sleep in shifts. And yet they're happy, and they play, and they do all of the ordinary things that we would do if we weren't in crisis.
Right.
The resilience is incredible to me.
Huh. Now clinically, the cases that you saw, or did you see some cases that you only saw on a board exam, or those type of unusual type
Yes.
cases, or?
Oh my goodness, yes. I saw more tropical disease. We saw filariasis, and after a little bit of research, we'd see our patients, and then we'd go home, and thanks to the internet, we could research these diseases that we'd only read about 20 years ago, and figure out what was going on with people. Come to find out, filariasis is endemic in Leogan. And it was a real interesting discussion that we had with our translators, because we were high-fiving one another that we figured out what was going on. We had a man who had incredibly swollen testicles and scrotum. It was filariasis that he had. And wow, we figured it out. We came back the next day and told the translators, and they said, "Oh yeah, we know that. We know that they're not even medical." And they
Wow.
much like we know just diseases that we know chickenpox. Everybody here knows chickenpox.
Right.
Well, everybody there knows psoriasis.
Wow. Huh. So was it all like clinical skills? Did you have a lab? Did you have any kind of testing equipment at all?
No. Oh heavens, no. And that was a real awakening in terms of being a family doc and understanding how to do a decent clinical exam and go on your clinical suspicion, and not having. We had no labs. We didn't even have water. We had no running water, and so there was no way to do any kind of testing beyond what you could assess on a physical exam.
Why don't you share a little bit about the social media angle there? You said you had internet but no hot water, and the first I learned that you were there was on your Facebook page. Was that something that you consciously wanted to share, with your family, obviously, while you were there, or what was your thinking with that?
I absolutely didn't. In fact, beyond that, I used Skype. I was there during Mother's Day, and it was so amazing to be able to Skype my mom and my stepmom, and to be able to have all my kids talk to me on Skype. So that was really very, very cool, because cell phones didn't work at all. So other than that, we had no verbal communication. I had I had planned to use Facebook as just a way to share pictures while I was there, so that I could download my pictures and make sure that everybody had a sense of where I was, mainly my family. But it really got much bigger, and it became a way to journal what I was doing, and also stay connected with people back home. Without the benefit of social media, I'm really worried that it could have been an extremely almost depressing kind of a situation to be in, because you're so isolated, and the days were difficult. They're very, very difficult. And so it was a great way to be able to decompress and say, look what we did today. And then the benefit was amazing, because I think we recruited more people to come. We were able to really put a human face on what was happening there in a way that you don't get from television. So that was really neat.
Yeah, it was fascinating. Just reading your posts, even though they were a dozen lines or something like that. Your descriptions there was just like, wow. I mean, it was like, we were there, or it was very concise, but it was very descriptive at times, and adding the pictures with that, it really set a picture in my mind, to even kind of approximate what was happening, what you were doing, and you're right. I mean, without social media, I mean, none of that really would have happened, or you wouldn't have that kind of raw type experience or emotion that you put in those posts, in real time, right there.
That's absolutely true, because so much happened. I don't know if you've ever been in an experience like that, where every day was so full that to be able to talk about that, even doing this interview with you, Mike, I think about, well, what pieces of my time there do I talk about, and how do I make that real for people? And there was too much.
And on the plane home, when you're thinking about this very intense experience, I would imagine there are probably things that you learned about yourself or learned about your life experiences up to that point. What was your thoughts when you were coming back home from that very intense experience?
Gosh, that's a great question. I have the last couple of years have been an interesting time for me, because I've become a cancer survivor in the last couple of years, and so one of the things that my family wasn't all that crazy about me going, because they're worried about me catching something, or they nearly lost me once, they don't want to lose me again, and there were tremors while we were there. There's the threat of another earthquake, certainly. On the way back, what occurred to me was that this trip allowed me, in a way, to reclaim my life, and to be able to say I can fully invest in giving back to others again. And it made me realize I'm well, which was an experience I didn't expect to have. So that wasn't something I really planned on sharing on this call, but that was my thought on the way back home. That how fortunate we all are in what we have in our country. How we take that for granted an awful lot. At least I do. I know I do. I get tired during my day and don't realize how blessed I am. My translator was a 22-year-old guy who had a tailor shop and had a house and had a motorcycle and was going to college. And in 90 seconds, he has no house, no motorcycle, no college, no store anymore. And in his lifetime, I'm not sure if that's ever going to be back. And yet he goes on, and he's making, I don't even want to say how little a week, translating for us, just to try and help his country come back to where it was. And so it really brought me full circle in terms of how fortunate I am. And gosh, what can I do to really give back now? So that's where I am.